for whoever just joined, welcome. This is Federica, part of the Docsity team, and it's my pleasure to welcoming you all to this live webinar of HKBU School of Business. Wanted to welcome our speakers. We have some alumni connected with us and Professor Prendergast. From the alumni, we have Natalia, we have Wesley, Yahia, and Thomas, and they're all here to share with us their experience and to answer all of your questions, which can be dropped into the Q&A box. So starting sharing with you a video, then we'll resume live to start with our presentation. Thank you so much.
What does HKBU mean to me?
It's the lifelong connections and friends I made.
It's becoming a leader and a role model for the next generation.
It's the exchange between professors, staff, ambassadors, fellow classmates and friends from all four corners of the world. It's the perspective you get from immersing yourself in everything around you, inside the classroom
and outside the classroom.
Are you looking to be the difference that matters?
Open your mind to a new culture.
Work with the greatest minds of our generation.
Or place to dance, be free and let loose.
A little too loose? Explore the world.
And discover yourself.
Everyone has got to start somewhere.
And I know my choice.
I choose HKBU School of Business.
What are you waiting for?
Thank you. Thanks for all that were part in this video, and ready to start with our presentation. So Q&A box is the right place to write all of the questions that you might have. But we're starting our presentation today by introducing you Natalia. She's from Russia and she's ready to tell us more about her experience. Welcome and thanks for your time. Thank you, Natalia. Your mic, I think, is off. Is still off. We cannot hear.
Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. Can you see my screen?
And
now?
we can see your screen. Yes.
Okay. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm a bit humbled, to be sharing first, but I guess we start with boring accounting. So I'm HKBU graduate of year 2018, and today I only have 10 minutes. Just feel free to interrupt me, Federica, if I overreach. I'll be discussing two topics. First one is how the MAC program Master of Accountancy completed my business education, and I'll be going a little bit on the impact of COVID-19 on accounting profession. So I currently work as a manager in professional services in Perm Consultants. It's a boutique firm having offices in Hong Kong and Singapore, specialized in providing high quality forensic accounting service, business valuations, liquidations, and other appointments. Won't go into details. I'm also the member of the ACCA, that's an accounting qualification. I was honored to be top achiever of ACCA in Hong Kong in 2019. And of course, I hold a Master of Accountancy degree from HKBU. So this is just to tell you a bit more about myself. I have an unusual career path, starting from Russia, then working for 6 years, there are 6 years in mainland China, then moving to Hong Kong, completing my master's degree at the same time, and now I am in Singapore since the new year. So going back to the topic of how I think the MAC program has completed my multilingual business education is, I can think of three things. First one is obviously expertise, all the including all the strong technical knowledge of international accounting, auditing, Hong Kong taxation, basic law. So the curriculum is structured in the way that it helps you, to gain the knowledge that is needed for the job. And you know that Hong Kong accounting and standards and auditing, they walk in hand with international standards. So you're having you're laying out a very good base to your future. Then you can choose actually if you want to be in-house accountant, if you want to go in professional services or elsewhere. Then HKBU has very professional staff. I'm talking about professors. It's I was really I'll be a bit deviating from the topic, but in one of the cases I worked on, so that was engagement involving the providing expert witness evidence to the court, and the witness from the prosecutor wrote this report, and this witness was one of the HKBU professors, and actually that professor who taught me, I was really fascinated that there are not only academics, but people who are actually involved into the who are helping the judges to make this decision, and the judges trust this expertise. So this is something I came upon recently in one of my work cases. And another thing is I think this program actually helped me to prepare for my professional exams. It was the curriculum is structured in that way that you have a lot of written open book exams, and they are drafted in that way. So once you need to sit your professional exams, it's easy. And being an accountant, obviously, once you're getting your degree, you're thinking about professional qualification. This is something what defines you, right? What helps you to build up on your career. And the third thing is, of course, networking. While you're in Hong Kong, in multinational city, you'll be meeting incredible, talented people, not only from your faculty, but just from your from university, from School of Business, right? You'll be developing your own network, which will again become your strong base for the future. I know that my classmates will all work in different industries, we have all in different positions, but as I see, we all grow, right? We all are going somewhere, and one day, like for example, in professional accounting area, those people who were associates, they will become partners, and it's a good place, to start making, building alliances and simply having friends. So that's what I think was the contribution of MAC program to my life. Now moving on into the challenges that COVID brought on the profession. So I work on mostly on forensic accounting engagements. So these are related to different kind of fraud, and while obviously can say that COVID had gave rise to the perfect storm of uncertainty, and adding in the growth of the technology, then forced digitalization. Well, not always forced, but most of the time forced. We all were struggling, right? Since physical pursuits took a backseat, we were working from home, and many of us still are, as a matter of fact, as we have new waves of COVID across the world. So this all led to the escalated risks of money laundering and cybercrime, along with tightening, of course, of the restrictions from different authorities, right? So we saw really an incredible rise in inquiries in relation to different kind of forensic investigations to be undertaken, insolvency services, crisis management. So while I mean, COVID definitely threw a curveball not only to our clients but to ourselves, we had to find ways to stand up to new rising fraud types of fraud, and you know, be prepared not only to help our clients but also learn new things and you know, act quickly, because when fraud happens, when you need to trace the assets to understand where the money went, how can you get it back, it's one of essential things is time. If you don't use it wisely, I mean, the money will be gone. So this was a short presentation about the challenges, and to wrap up, we'll be soon passing on to questions. I would like to say that while we only have offices in Hong Kong and Singapore, we're looking forward to you know, different intern applications, especially those who are currently studying, you know, currently doing their master's program, because we value Hong Kong education, we value HKBU diplomas. So if you guys, if any one of the participants, you have any questions, just feel free to write to my email. I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Natalia, and it's
Thank you,
been
Frederica.
a pleasure to hear about your experience. And as Natalia said, you know, we're open to any sort of questions that you guys might have. So really take on this opportunity, because it's not, it doesn't really happen every day to have the opportunity to talk to alumni and students of a certain university. So really make the most of it and ask any sort of questions that you might have. So really wanted to thank you, Natalia. She will be available for any sort of question that you guys might have. So we are actually now moving on to our second speaker for today. So I'd like to leave the floor to Wesley. So as we said at the beginning, Wesley is actually from the UK, and he's actually one of our speaker alumni at HKBU, and will tell us more about his experience. For all of your questions, again, drop them into the Q&A box. Wesley, leave you the floor.
Thanks so much, Frederica. Hi, everyone. Let me just share my screen here, 1 second. So can everybody see
yes,
my presentation? Fantastic. Okay, great. Well, I'll try not to take up the whole 10 minutes so that we get some more time for the all-important question and answers later. But just to tell you a little bit about what I'll talk about today. So I'm going to talk about my choice of going, as has already been mentioned, from London to Hong Kong, and the reasons why I made that decision when I did. Although it may be obvious given the difference in COVID cases at the moment. And then I'll look at the MSCBM and how I feel that has potentially boosted my career. And then finally, I'll wrap up by talking about working remotely from Hong Kong as I do currently, and whether that is potentially the best of both worlds. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, which I'll go into more detail on the next slide, but I'm currently Director of Operations and Growth for a consumer goods startup called HEPA, owned by a larger sort of conglomerate of sorts. I did study the MSc BM last year at HKBU. And then prior to that, before some startup work, I did my undergraduate degree in law, what's called jurisprudence at Oxford University. So just moving on to the next slide. So just to tell you a little bit more about my background in some more detail and give you a little bit of context. I went straight from university to a London-based startup. Literally 2 weeks after I left undergrad, I thought, I don't want to go into law, I want to go into startups. I'm fed up of being at home, let's get to it. So moved to London very, very quickly. But the result of that is I hadn't spent a huge amount of time considering my future. I just wanted to be outside of the home, working, you know, starting my career somewhere. I literally took the first job that I applied for because it was the first job I got an offer for. But what that meant is, you know, I really lucked out. I worked at a great startup. They're now, you know, one of the most famous in Europe at the moment in their space. I got to go on a huge part of that journey as they were raising funding rounds. And by the time I left, I was basically the sort of the most senior person in the company behind the COO. I trained my own team and everything was going fantastically. But really, I was tired. And Samuel Johnson said, when a man is tired of London, he's tired of life. And I suppose I was definitely tired of life by that point. I'd, having come from Wales and then to Oxford, then to London, I'd seen all the sights that London had to offer. I'd been to all the bars. I'd, done all my late nights in the office. And I was just, I guess you'd call it, burned out. London is a fantastic place to live. It's vibrant. There's always something to do, and there are great companies to work for there. But then I saw this opportunity at HKBU, and I realized from having visited here during my undergraduate degree that Hong Kong actually has all of this and more. It was everything I loved about London, but with, better food, more interesting people, and nicer potential photographs, as you see on the left here. By the way, hopefully we have some photo fans in the audience because I've got some great ones coming up too. So that was my choice of moving from London to Hong Kong, just fundamentally feeling that I wanted something new and a fresh experience. And then I'll show you why that's so significant. So why do I feel that moving to do the MSCBM at HKBU was so perfect, given how I was feeling at the time? I think there are the obvious things, that everyone always talks about, but it's important to mention. Obviously, you get the degree, you get the piece of paper, you get something that you can put on your CV and say, hey, I actually accomplished something that not everyone has. And of course, there's a huge amount of value to that. I personally, just to be perfectly honest, don't put the same value in a network as other people do. I tend to think that, if you put in the work speaks for you, as opposed to, the value you can get from speaking to other people. But I appreciate that's a controversial view. But the third thing is the learnings that you make. So I really felt, and maybe I didn't fully realize this at the time, but I think I always felt a certain degree of insecurity having gone into the startup world, that, I'd come from a very different background to a lot of people. A legal education is really valuable in some ways, but it's awful in others. You spend a lot of time reading through very, very boring documents, or in my case, reading through some of them and then spending the rest of the time partying. But, it's not necessarily perfect for knowing all of the sort of academic, theoretical elements of running a business. And so for me, I wanted that bedrock foundation to the rest of my career. And I think that's where the MSCBM slots in really nicely for people. If you've done a business undergrad and you feel there are sort of certain bits of knowledge that you're missing, or that you want to develop further, or if you've done a degree for undergrad that you feel actually, wasn't as relevant to your future career, it's a great way to kind of just catch up on all those little things that people talk about, Porter's 5 forces and all that kind of stuff that you just don't know if you haven't done the degree. But personally for me, given what I mentioned in the first slide, I actually think the real value to a 1-year master's in somewhere like Hong Kong is something that not a lot of people talk about, which is the headspace element. I was feeling really burned out. I was feeling that after 3 years I'd accomplished what I set out to accomplish in that role, but I didn't know where to go next. And if you don't know, applying for positions while you're already in a job, particularly if you're working, I was working maybe 70-hour weeks, is a really, really hard thing to do. And I think what's great about the MSCBM that I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate, it kind of gives you an opportunity, particularly after all the difficulties we've had during COVID, to sort of press pause on everything, to take a step back. You're doing some studying, of course, that's going to take a lot of time, but also just to think, okay, what do I want to do next? What are my next moves? What are my next steps? And I think that's true whether you took a couple of years after undergraduate to work, or if you've come straight from undergraduate. I think it's still valuable because you're a little bit wiser than you've been over the last 3 years, and you've just really got that time to think, what are my next steps? What's most sensible for me? And so I think that takes me then to, and sorry, just to mention, so this was a really cool guy of New Year's last year who I loved his stall, and he very nicely was wishing me Happy New Year, and we had a nice little chat. But I had to get that snap in with all those funny statues, or cool statues. So where does that take me to today after the MSCBM? So I'm now, as I mentioned, working as a director for a consumer goods startup, and I'm doing that remotely from Hong Kong. The company is based in Singapore, but everybody works from all over the world. So I think we've got a team now of around somewhere in the 50s. And we have people that work from Thailand, the Philippines, the UK, everywhere basically. And really, I feel that for me, I appreciate people have different perspectives, but I really like the remote working lifestyle. And I think this is something that COVID has facilitated, which I saw coming for quite a while. But I think, the future of work is having the flexibility to live where you want, work when you want to, provided you get everything done. And I'm very excited for that. And I think that, in a lot of ways, being prepared as an international potential student to move across the world and live in Hong Kong and study the MSCBM is really going to give you the skills to be in the workforce of the future, which is, somebody that's prepared to roll with the punches, somebody that's prepared to take risks, and hopefully get some really nice rewards from those risks. So I will leave you with that image of that very chilled out gentleman on the fishing on the water, which is how I felt once I completed the MSCBM. So yeah, that's everything from me.
Thank you, Wesley. Thank you actually for addressing some very interesting topics. The fact that sometimes students think about is the right background to apply to a certain program. And so it was very, very interesting. Thank you so much. Some questions are actually starting to arrive, and I'd like to thank the team of HKBU that is actually starting to answer to some of them. And we are ready to answer live to all of your questions after the presentation. So thank you, Wesley. And it's now time to leave the floor to one of our speakers for today. So at the beginning, when we were actually asking you where you were connecting from, I believe someone said Morocco, and we actually have Yahiha, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right, that is from Morocco, is an alumni of HKBU School of Business, and is ready to share with us his experience, and of course ready to receive all of the questions that you might have about his experience, but also about the experience of our alumni that we heard before. I'll leave you the floor.
Thank you, Federica. Just 1 second, I'll share my screen right away. I hope you can see it.
Yes, perfect.
Oh.
So meantime, yes, I can see. Perfect. Good. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing good, and I'm really glad to be here today to share with you my experience and how things worked out for me since I've graduated from HKBU. And today I will talk about my experience in Hong Kong, HKBU, and what came afterwards. And please drop any kind of questions you may have. I'll be glad to share with you my experience later. So I will start by describing how HKBU increased, or how HKBU in fact impacted the way I shifted my career in a sense. So I started studying in Morocco in a business school, and from there I developed a keen interest in economics and corporate finance. And later on, I moved to France to further my studies in information systems and also corporate finance. And I've worked there for a year for a French company. and then COVID happened. And at the same time, there was a rise in interest in everything related to financial technologies, and I was really interested into that topic, and it made all sense for me to further my studies even more, because I honestly, I love research, I love studying, and I love to further my knowledge regarding all topics. So back in 2020, where everything went sideways, if I may say so, I applied for HKBU, and I was one of the fortunate people to get a spot. So by the end of 2020, I was already in Hong Kong. And let me just share with you this slide. It was quite an experience, to be honest. I was in a flight where it's supposed to have 380 people. We were 6, and I was maybe the only foreigner. Next was after my 21 days of quarantine, where I started adapting to the new life, seeing Hong Kong. And I mean, since I've got out of my quarantine, I didn't stop roaming around and meeting people and everything, and also discovering the wonderful place Hong Kong is. And also there was a picture on your right, there's a picture from my room where I used to study, and yeah, good memories overall. So let's go back to my experience, and the question, in fact, is how HKBU impacted or increased my mobility. In fact, being in Hong Kong as an international city, it helps you to further your perspective when it comes to seeing people from all over the world. And financial sector there is absolutely amazing. And at the same time, you will have opportunities to network a lot during your studies, which will be a very enriching experience for you. Hong Kong also opened my eyes to a lot of local events and local, let's say, local experiences that I wouldn't have lived or experienced when I was in Europe. And some of them are related to like simply sightseeing or maybe discovering the city, and some of them are related to my own experience living with my roommate, who's also my colleague, and at the same time we've used to study a lot together. We used to live some great moments together, and that also something you would experience back in Hong Kong, since you will have the chance to meet people, you will have the chance to connect, and that's something that is very valuable, especially that it was during the global pandemic. I can't stress enough about the importance of living in Hong Kong, how it can open your eyes to new things. Since when I was there, I have participated in more workshops and more virtual events than I have never done in my whole life. So, and that also goes back to the support. Oh my God, to the support that HKBU provides. So for example, you will have a career center that sends you a bunch of emails that sometimes you will just say, oh my God, I have 10 emails from career center. What did they want from me? But if you take a few minutes from your time and just check every email, you will get the chance to have access to amazing events, something that you are very sometimes exclusive to HKBU students, especially as a fintech student. You will also get the chance to connect. And as the internationalization section, they will help you to connect with other students from other programs within HKBU, and they will also push you as well as the career center to seek new opportunities, to participate in virtual events or recruitment talks, or let's see, career corporate visits. There are a lot of things that can be done within your journey in HKBU, and there's also I remember I've done CV consultation and interview mock and workshops, and I've participated in many network events. These kind of opportunities within a global pandemic, it's very valuable for every student out there, and especially since I had an interest in financial technology, and Hong Kong is the perfect place to experience that. I honestly had a very good I mean, I had the chance to live a very good experience back in Hong Kong. At the same time, the Master of Fintech and Financial Analytics, it it gives you exposure to not only the traditional corporate finance that we know all, but beyond that. Fintech, um, they invite professional practitioners from different industries within the fintech industry, but from different sectors, and they give you a lot of insights, and you can connect with them using LinkedIn, and you can get a lot of insights from them, and they will open your eyes to how the world is changing. And that, I mean, you will get hands-on learning. At the same time, you will do study cases. You may also participate in a lot of external events as the Blockchain Olympiad, for example, which were a valuable experience. So doing that master degree helped me to have a lot of exposure, which helped me later on to land an offer outside of Hong Kong, which is a little bit ironic, but I will talk about that in a minute. So the thing is, I couldn't just settle. So during my stay in Hong Kong, I've learned so much. I've met so many people. I had everything I was expecting and more sometimes from HKBU, but at the same time, I was open to all opportunities, and I encourage you guys, all of you around the world, to not just settle for any kind of opportunity just because you like the place or maybe you're very comfortable where you are, but then using the Get Hired platform, and you will get access to that once you're in HKBU, and at the same time you will have access to Career Center and the emails I've mentioned previously. You will have the chance to get access to a lot of graduate opportunities, and don't miss the deadline. That was something well, I failed to do along with so many other people I know. But at the same time, don't miss deadlines on graduate programs, because they start early and they finish their recruitment or they close the deadlines very, very early. Some of them have already closed by now for this year's graduates. So, and some of them are still recruiting as the graduate program I'm doing currently. So I use the tools that HKBU provided for me, and that led me to Denmark, where I am right now. In fact, the thing is, when I applied, I thought that I've applied to a job in Hong Kong within Echo, the company where I am working in right now. It's a shoe manufacturer, and they own their own value chain from hides to retail. So the thing is, it's a graduate program, and it has many rotations that you will do all around the world. And when I applied, they were all surprised to find a graduate from Hong Kong, and they were very interested in how in my life in Hong Kong, and how where I want to be later on in for my career and my life in general. And I went along with the recruitment process, as long as and also other recruitment processes within Hong Kong. And by the time I finished the recruitment process, I was sure that this opportunity was for me, because it's not narrowed to finance, as I'm a finance graduate, but I was given the opportunity to explore, and that opened my eyes to this new opportunity. And since I don't see myself just settling for one country or one place, and I like to move around a lot, I was given this chance. And since I'm in Denmark, and later on I will be moving around, maybe to Singapore or mainland China, but we're still working on that. So yeah, overall, I had an amazing experience, and I used every tool that was given to me back in HKBU, either online or physical. And these are some of the pictures I took during the induction program, and either in Denmark, where I am, or in the Netherlands. And yeah, overall, I'd be glad to answer any of your questions. This is a link to the graduate program. It's called NextGen, and this is a link to my LinkedIn. If you want to connect, I'll be glad to answer your question.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Yahia. And there's now time to leave the floor to Thomas. Thomas is an alumni. He studied Master of Science in Applied Economics, and he's going to tell us more about his experience. I believe he's from the USA, so also, as you can see, lots of different students from different countries. Thomas, I leave you the floor.
Thank you, Federica. Hi, everyone. Thomas here, sharing my screen. Hopefully you can see it. Otherwise, please let me know. So thank you for the great presentations prior. Just hitting present now. So pretty much in my presentation, I'll spend the next 10 minutes to go over my experience at HKBU and the different startups I've been working on since then. So with that, quickly, it'll just be who I am, my background, my time at BU, and the different startups. So just a quick recap. I graduated from HKBU in 2018 with a master's in applied economics. I am now on my IANG visa still. So some of you have asked in the questions about staying in Hong Kong. It's definitely doable. You can get your IANG visa extended for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years until you become a permanent resident, which I'm on the path to do. And then during my time at BU, I started a few companies, and now I'm a co-founder and COO of Happier, and also founded another company last year called Happy Hacked. So these are the first startups I had. They were during my time in HKBU, and they took me to some entrepreneurship programs fully funded in UC Berkeley and University of Chicago. So the first startup I did was an entertainment travel tech sort of VR live streaming platform startup. And it was through a program hosted by HKBU and UC Berkeley in California. Pretty much you came up with new ideas, formed teams, developed prototypes, pitched them to investors and business professionals. Our team ended up winning, and we had the chance to go to UC Berkeley for a week-long boot camp to learn more about entrepreneurship, meet with a lot of cool people. So during that time, I learned a lot about starting my own company, such as finding the right co-founders, doing user interviews for your prototypes. I also met a lot of cool people, investors, and mentors. So the gentleman on the top is Jeff Byrne. He's the founder of EA, Electronic Arts. Most of you might know EA Sports like FIFA, Star Wars, Battlefield. These are all by EA. So that was really cool. And he gave me a lot of great advice on my own company, which is also in entertainment. So the second startup I did was a fintech startup that revolved around helping stay-at-home moms learn how to invest in stocks. And this one was through a program with the Hong Kong government with Cyberport. Pretty much we were the only team from HKBU to be selected. There was around 20 teams from all over Hong Kong. And again, they funded us to go to another school overseas. This time it was University of Chicago, previously it was Stanford. They also go to schools in the UK and worldwide. And it was an intensive week-long program where we learned the foundations of entrepreneurship. We also ended up pitching for funding at Cyberport, and we were able to get 100,000 HKD to develop our prototype. And through that, I really learned about iterations. So what we went in, the idea that we went in with was not the same as the end. We changed around 3 or 4 times after hitting different obstacles, finding new, more efficient solutions. So that was the biggest takeaway. It also let us practice pitching to real investors, getting questions, and also getting funding as well. So really great opportunities that if I didn't attend HKBU, I probably wouldn't have had the chance to do. And so after that, I took what I learned from the startups. They both failed, which a lot of startups do, but that's perfectly fine. Actually, speaking to a lot of investors, they don't invest usually in first-time investors. They invest in people who have started other startups and have failed because they know you can deal with it, you can move on and do better. So after that, I wanted to get more experience in a more successful startup. So I joined one that runs hackathons, innovation challenges for companies, and we raised US $14 million for the startup. So I had a really good experience. It was a international, multinational company. We had offices in 6 countries. And after a year, I felt like I learned what I could from that and then wanted to join a smaller startup. So I helped launch and co-founded Happier.io, which might go over some of the questions you guys have actually around recruitment and jobs in Hong Kong. So what is Happier? Happier is a holistic career platform. We provide companies with company profiles that showcase the cultures and work environment to make sure it's a good fit before you join. So since then, we also have launched a few other things such as a video production agency in-house. We also have an academy we launched last year in January for upskilling and reskilling courses, and we're launching now a coaching platform. So I always tell people it's like dating. You want to make sure not only that you're a good fit for the company, but you need to make sure that the company is a good fit for you. So we help you figure out whether or not that's the case by showcasing it through videos, blogs, podcasts, and let you do your research to join. So since we launched 2 years ago, we have now more than 550 companies, including startups, unicorns, large corporations. And what's great is I'm able to help give back to HKBU and also hire HKBU alumni. So for our own company, we've employed HKBU students for internships and jobs afterwards, but we've also helped them find jobs at other really cool companies. Like GoGoVan is the first unicorn in Hong Kong. We have a lot of banks as well, consulting companies, nonprofits, really all sorts of different companies. So in addition to that, we also do a lot of support for job seekers, including students. We have our own podcast where I get to interview a lot of really cool people from banks, from tech companies, startups, whatnot. And then we also have a lot of blogs and podcasts, blogs, videos, posts, and webinars that give more insight into job seeking and tips and advice. So if you're interested, you guys can find more by scanning those QR codes. And then my latest startup I launched was last year, and it is on positive psychology. So really helping people figure out what makes them happy, how to bring in more happiness and resilience, especially during COVID, and who knows where the future will bring. So I will finish the presentation here so that we can have more time for Q&A. But I just want to share there's a lot of great opportunity at HKBU to really get out what you put in. And there's a lot of opportunity afterwards to find really cool jobs, stay in Hong Kong if you want, travel overseas, work overseas or remote, as some of my fellow classmates have done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the presentation. And now, last but not least, we do have the Professor Prendergast connected. So it'll be my pleasure to leave the floor for his presentation. And it's amazing to have now a different point of view. We heard from the alumni. Now we'll leave the floor to the professor who can tell us more about HKBU School of Business.
Thank you, Federica. And thank you to the 4 previous alumni speakers. We're always very proud to hear the stories from our alumni. So my name is Gerard Prendergast. I'm Associate Dean in the School of, let me just put that in full screen. I'm Associate Dean in the School of Business, and I've been in Hong Kong for very many years. I'm a New Zealander by birth, but I've been in Hong Kong for a very long time. So I'm in a good position to share with you some information about the School of Business. So that's my purpose of this 10 minutes, is to talk about the university, the School of Business, our master's programs in the School of Business, and finally, probably what you are most interested in is the scholarship opportunities that we have in the School of Business. So a little bit about the university itself. So this is the university here. This is what we call the Shore campus. The School of Business, where I'm speaking to you from right now, is in this building here. Baptist University is a publicly funded university. Now, in other countries, a publicly funded university may be a low-ranked university, but in Hong Kong, it's very different because publicly funded universities are very well funded by the government, very well supported by the government. So the higher-ranking universities in Hong Kong are the publicly funded universities, which we are. We are a research-led university. That means our faculty are active in research and they use their research to inform their teaching. That's not the normal liberal arts university model. Often the liberal arts university is focused only on teaching, but we have a balance between research and teaching, even though we are a liberal arts university. What do we mean by a liberal arts university? If you ask 100 people, what is a liberal arts university, you'll get 100 different definitions. But from our point of view, our philosophy, we are preparing students not just for a job, but for life, And I know that sounds very ambitious, but that is the philosophy of our university. We want to prepare graduates who are knowledgeable, skillful, socially responsible, and have a global mindset. Okay, knowledgeable, skillful, socially responsible, and have a global mindset. And we believe that the graduates of a liberal arts university is exactly what employers need these days. So we think we're in a good position to foster that employability because of our liberal arts philosophy. So let me talk now about the School of Business. So the School of Business was a pioneer in whole person education in Hong Kong. Now there are other universities in Hong Kong talking about whole person education, but we were the pioneer. As I said, we focused on developing graduates who are knowledgeable, skillful, socially responsible, and global in their mindset. We're a center of excellence in business research in selected areas. We are a relatively small university in the Hong Kong context. We can't spread our resources over too many areas. So we focus our research on corporate sustainability, entrepreneurship, fintech, and data analytics. Those are our 4 areas of focus in research. The mission of the School of Business is to nurture ethical leaders with global vision. So leaders, not followers. And I think you've seen from our 4 alumni speakers, those leadership attributes being displayed this evening. And a global vision. We want our graduates to have a global vision. My internationalization team works very hard on internationalizing the student experience at HKBU. We internationalize our student body, our faculty body, our curriculum, and our research collaborations around the world. So a very strong emphasis on having a global vision. The School of Business has 3 accreditations. We are so-called a triple crown or triple accreditation School of Business. Only 1% of business schools in the world have these 3 accreditations. You may think that accreditations are not a big deal. Now, if you are ranked in the top, say, 100 universities, accreditations are not really a very big deal. If you're ranked in the top 100, your brand name itself gives you a quality assurance. But if you are not in the top 100, and we are not in the top 100, then you don't have such a strong brand presence on the global stage. And in that situation, as an applicant, as a student coming in, you need to know that we have hit international benchmarks. And that is what this triple accreditation shows. We have hit the international benchmarks. So AACSB is the American accreditation, EQUIS is the European accreditation, and AMBER is an accreditation specifically for our MBA, MSc, BM program. There's a lot of work behind these achieving and maintaining these accreditations. And as I said, they ensure that we have hit international quality benchmarks. Student diversity. If you were to join our School of Business, you will not be the only foreigner here. We have 39 countries represented in the School of Business. And there are the countries listed there. I haven't counted them. I guess there's 39 listed there. Our philosophy for internationalization, the most important word for us in internationalization for the School of Business is diversity. Diversity. We don't want all our students coming from the US, all our students coming from Europe, all of our students coming from Asia. We want diversity. And the reason for that is very simple. You learn more from people who are different from yourself than you learn from people who are the same as yourself. You learn more from people who are different from yourself than you learn from people who are the same as yourself. That is the driving motivation for our school to focus on diversity in our student recruitment exercise. These are the fleet of master's programs that we have in the School of Business. And I suppose most of you here tonight or watching the recording, you are interested in one of these master's programs here. So these are one-year programs, okay? And after studying, graduating from one of these programs, you qualify for a visa to stay in Hong Kong for at least 1 year, the IANG visa that Thomas referred to. So that's a bonus of graduating from our one-year master's program. And finally, scholarships. Last but certainly not least, I guess that there's a lot of interest in scholarships from potential international students. So let me finish off by talking about our scholarships. Just checking the clock. Our flagship scholarship is this one here. It's called IPS, International Postgraduate Scholarship. This scholarship is full tuition fee waiver plus a living allowance of US dollars 12,820 for 1 year. Okay, that is not the monthly allowance. That is a 1 year allowance, 12,820 USD. This scholarship is very generous. And frankly, this scholarship, maintaining this scholarship for many years is going to cost us a lot of money. So I would apply while you can for this scholarship, while we are still offering it. To apply for the scholarship, you don't need a separate application. You just need to apply for the program. And by applying for the program as an international student, you are automatically considered for an IPS scholarship. That doesn't mean you'll get a scholarship, but you'll be automatically considered for an IPS scholarship. We have other generous scholarships as well. We have diversity contribution scholarship. That may mean half tuition fee waiver, sometimes full tuition fee waiver, but you don't get the living allowance with the scholarship. And then we have various entrance award admission scholarships as well, some cash amount. But this is basically a ranking of attractiveness, I guess. The flagship IPS, diversity scholarship, and then the entrance awards and admission scholarships. The footnotes are quite important. As I said, a separate application is not required. You just need to apply for the program, and then we will consider you for a scholarship. These scholarships are very competitive. They are competitive. We have high caliber candidates applying for these scholarships. There's no guarantee that you will get a scholarship. But if you don't apply, definitely you won't get it. Okay, so you've got to be in it to win it, basically. Competition increases as the year progresses, so we recommend starting your application early. I think Wesley mentioned that, or maybe it was Thomas, I can't remember. Somebody mentioned that, or maybe it was, I can't remember. But somebody mentioned that some of our programs may have stopped applications already. I think most of them are still open for application, although it is now, where are we? Late January. Most of them should still be open for application. That's why we're running this webinar tonight, okay? Because we're still accepting applications. And that is it, okay? So we are exactly on time, Federica.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
So you all did great. We're absolutely on time, and we will do our best to receive some of the questions that you guys were asking while the presenters were speaking. So first of all, I wanted to thank all of you for being connected and for all of your valuable questions, and to all of our speakers today. It's been great to hear about your experience, and thanks for your time. I know that some of you are working busy schedules, so thank you so much. There was a question earlier on to Natalia regarding the program. So I believe you have a master in accountancy. So someone was asking you if you are coming from an accountancy background. So if you actually studied a bachelor in accountancy and if it was hard to graduate. So if someone doesn't come from the same background, if you would suggest to enroll into this program.
Well, in fact, I do have a bachelor's in accounting from a Russian university. So that's a completely different educational system, you know, nothing to do with international, I'd say international one in Hong Kong. So as I wanted to, you know, to effectively start my career to gain the professional qualification, I obviously needed, you know, like a good base of knowledge of international accounting. So I came for the knowledge, and yes, it was challenging. That requires a lot of work just to be able to keep up with the pace and be able to effectively graduate. But that's a lot of fun along the way too. And you know, there are many students from mainland China, so the competition is there. I would say that's.
I don't know if the professor wants to add anything to someone that, you know, might not have exactly the background of the master, if you'd still encourage the person to put an application through or any sort of advice.
Well, basically, to apply for the master's programs, there are some hygiene factors, some things you must have. One of those things is an undergraduate degree or equivalent. Doesn't necessarily need to be related to the master's programs you are applying for. Our MSc in business management is particularly liberal in the nature of the undergraduate degree that is required. So you must have an undergraduate degree. If your degree is from an English-speaking university, you don't need to produce any English language test result. If your degree is from a non-English speaking university, you need to produce a TOEFL score of 79 or above, or an IELTS score of 6.5 or above. Okay, work experience is nice, but it's not a requirement for our master's program. Can I just say one more thing, Federica, because someone in the chat room said, are we a Baptist university? Well, we are called Hong Kong Baptist University, okay, but we don't have any religion. We were founded by Baptists more than 60 years ago, but now we are a publicly funded university with a Christian heritage. But we welcome all religions. We welcome no religion. We encourage diversity. Thank
Perfect. You. Thank you so much. Another question. Somebody says, do you guys think you could have achieved what you have now because of the university? So what's the role that HKBU played into the decision of, you know, landing in the job that you actually mentioned to us? Maybe Wesley, if you can give us your opinion on this, how important was the decision of enrolling into HKBU?
Yeah, sure. And also just as relevant to this, something that Thomas mentioned, which I think is useful to say, is I also took part in sort of a boot camp of sorts while I was at HKBU. So I took part in what's called the MIT MEMC node. And my team managed to win that unexpectedly. So that was really cool. And I think, again, it kind of comes back to, this is less relevant to the degree in particular, although that is important, but really it came back to me of those opportunities to sit back, think, what do I want to do next? Actually take the time to put a really strong application in. So for the current job I do now, you know, that was 5-6 rounds of interviews maybe. My final report was, you know, 4,000 words. That is so hard to do if you're in a job. Yeah, so just that opportunity to sit back, the opportunity to take part in boot camps, all of those kinds of things that then inform your chances and give you further opportunities, I think.
Thank you. Thomas, you were mentioning to us about your experience as, with your startup. And actually, thank you so much. Also, there was Timothy wanted, to get in contact. I wanted to ask you, if Hong Kong is a startup friendly, if it was, let's say, somehow easier to build your own companies, if any insight that you can share with us about this.
Sure. I think while Hong Kong's startup economy and ecosystem is quite behind the US, it is growing. The government is putting a lot of funding, like millions of dollars, into providing opportunities for students to learn more about entrepreneurship and also opportunities to fund these startups. So there's two main sort of programs in Hong Kong you can look up. There's Hong Kong Science and Technology Park, HKSTP, and there's Hong Kong Cyberport. So we were with Cyberport, received $100,000 to fund the prototype. After that, you can apply for another $500,000 for incubation, which is what my company is in right now. And then there's further funding from them as well, and a joint investment of 2 million US. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity. There's also more opportunity because there's so many wealthy individuals that are looking to fund the next big unicorn. So my startup now, in addition to Cyberport, we have a few private investors from Hong Kong as well. So as long as you're networking, researching, and sharing your story, pitching, then there's definitely a lot of opportunity.
Thank you, Thomas. Another question, and I would like to ask maybe Yahia can give his point of view, is regarding how he's getting job with Hong Kong, with company based in Hong Kong after studies as an international student. So if it was easier, what was your experience with this?
Well, at first, going to Hong Kong, going through the master degree and start applying for jobs, it might feel intimidating first, since a lot of companies will mention within their job application that they need applicants who speak Mandarin. So you will find a lot of that. But at the same time, it's usually what happens in real life is it's like a good to have as a language or maybe as a quality within your application overall, but it's not a must to have. Like put that in your head, because I missed on so many opportunities just because I've read somewhere that they needed someone who spoke Mandarin plus English or maybe Cantonese. But English is the main language for almost all companies in Hong Kong. That first. Second, I leveraged the tools that were given by HKBU, and mostly they were related to virtual seminars related to recruitment talks, CV screening, interviews, mock interviews. All of those, add up together to help you. And an early stage, I had a mock interview when I started in September 2020, and my first mock interview was in October, like 2 months barely, where I started the program. So you have to start thinking about graduating and your career at a very early stage. I mentioned before that some graduate programs that they are very interesting and they include a lot of rotations and they are very competitive after graduating from a master degree, but they close very early. And the same as my program, it will close maybe in less than a month. Some of them have already closed for global or maybe banks, for example, as JP Morgan and so on. They close at a very early stage, or IBM. So don't hesitate. You have a career center, HKBU, that you can leverage. They send email maybe every couple of days, and you will get a chance to have mock-up interviews and CV screening. It's for free from university. You just have to show up. And that's it. There's no secret formula. You have to apply to put a lot of effort into making a good application, and they will help you to get a good CV to Hong Kong standards, and then you will start applying. I got more than 5 interview opportunities out of maybe 30 to 40 applications, which is and you see, like in real life, it's a good ratio as a foreigner, as someone who don't speak Mandarin. But then I realized after going to the interview that Mandarin was not the main thing that will narrow your chances, for example. So just do it. That's as simple as it can get. Just get your application together and just start applying to as many jobs as you can, as many companies as you can, as early as you can, of course.
Perfect. And talking about application, the professor before in the presentation, was mentioning about the opportunity to get, let's say, scholarships or any other benefits. And I mentioned the fact of you need to apply, and you need to apply, let's say, earlier as possible, because of course, also the student said it is competitive to get in. But if you don't try, if you don't put an application through, you never know. As you can see, the team is very much available to answer any sort of questions that you guys might have. And I wanted to thank, this Dean, Alison, and Charlie just behind the scene answering all of the questions that you guys put through. We will be also sending you an email after this event with the recording to the webinar. So in case you missed some element, you'll be able to rewatch it. And we also will be including a link that you can refer to in case you have any further question. So just before, ending our session, I wanted to ask our speakers if there was anything else that they wanted to share, something that maybe there wasn't the time to share with you guys earlier, anything that you feel like adding. Yes.
Yeah, I just reflecting on tonight's webinar, a strong theme to emerge is employability. And I think our four alumni spoke very clearly to how the university and the school has fostered their employability. And as sorry, I can't pronounce Mr. Kabul, as Mr. Kabul emphasized, we have a lot of career services in the School of Business that clearly you have taken advantage of, and they are free. So the university has a careers office, but the School of Business has its own dedicated careers office to help students, graduates, step into the job market. So there's a lot of support on the job front. Yeah, thank you, Frederica.
And I would just add as well, just onto what the professor mentioned earlier, because some people have talked about startups this evening and wanting to be involved in startups and things like that. And obviously that is generally as people are aware, that is a higher risk sort of career path. And often in life, we have to think about not just the costs of things, but also the opportunity cost. And a huge draw for me in coming to the university was the fantastic scholarship program. So I really would encourage everyone to, if you compare that to the alternatives of what is out there currently, it's absolutely fantastic. And think about the opportunity cost. Think about the fact that it means you're more likely to be working with colleagues who have come from successful jobs previously, and think about the fact that it means you're more likely to then be able to go off and work in a startup or take a more high risk route, given that you potentially have fewer debts to worry about. So yeah, definitely hugely important.
I think also adding to that, sorry, Natalia.
Go ahead, Thomas.
I was just going to say, adding to that, I applied for a few other Hong Kong universities, considering them. They may be higher prestige than HKBU, but at the time that I applied, the high scholarships they had only covered half tuition. So you still have to pay for tuition and also your own living expenses. So definitely echo what Wesley's saying, take advantage of this great opportunity and good luck.
Yeah, right. Just adding, for the potential Master of Accountancy students, we had this multiple, meetings with Big Four partners who were coming to the university, promoting their firms and basically looking at the applicants. So this is this can be your chance. I mean, if you're in master's program, I'm sure that HKBU will be organizing various events, probably less now, but still like Big Four, they're out there, they're looking for new associates and they're recruiting.
Thank you, really, thank you. I wanted to thank you all for your time. I know you're all busy, all working. Thanks for the professor, thanks for the team that behind the scene was answering all of your questions. And for all of you that participated, there were lots of you connected tonight from all over the world. Has been great. And watch out for your inbox, because we will be sending you some extra information about HKBU School of Business, and any sort of question that you might have from today or over the next weeks, feel free to drop an email to the team and they'll be able to support you with this. So thank you so much. Thank you all for attending the event and for your time. So we look forward to seeing you soon. There will be some other webinar scheduled for the next month. So we will keep you informed about the next appointment that we have together. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day then. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.